Just thinking about what you said in the pod, I think how to eat well every day and not break those habits would be helpful. So if we start with breakfast and what that should look like, and then take ourselves through the day. I mean, a really small, simple thing, but should we be drinking sort of a gallon of water before we have our breakfast? And what should we have for breakfast that means that we get the best out of the day and then make better decisions for the rest of it?
Look, there is no one size fits all, and there is no one way of doing it. And what works for you in your life will be different than what works for me in my life. And so I think it is always really important to take that on board. It's about taking ideas and inspiration from everywhere, but not feeling you have to emulate or copycat one specific thing. But I think it would just be, I guess the main question to ask yourself is like, what can I do? So, breakfast for me is always a bit of a manic moment because I'm trying to get myself dressed and ready for a day. I'm trying to get both my kids dressed, make sure we've done the reading and we have the homework and like everything's packed and we have the water bottles and everyone's hair is brushed and teeth cleaned and we're all out the door on time to get to school and to get to nursery. And that is like, it's an experience. And so, for me, like prepping ahead is what works. I don't really ever cook breakfast in the morning. So we'll have yogurt and granola, or we'll have prep ahead porridges, or I'll like batch make a big thing. So we've been making loads of this pea and edamame pesto. So you just make a normal pesto recipe, your pine nuts, your basil, etc. And then you add just quickly defrosted peas and edamame to it. And I added some spinach as well. My kids love it, but I'm like, this is amazing. So it's protein in there. So
we did that last week for the kids. It was brilliant.
So delicious, isn't it? And then I toast some toast and spread that on. So it's much more of like an assembling, but it's taking that 5-10 minutes the night before to just make it, because then it's so easy in the morning and we all get out the door in a much less stressful way. And then lunch, I batch cook everything for lunch because I find lunch is the most difficult meal. I only ever tend to have, it seems like 30 seconds in a back-to-back day to eat lunch. And so I just find myself not really like just grabbing stuff whenever, however, otherwise. And so I batch cook and I'll eat that throughout the week for my lunch. And I find that to be the most helpful thing in the world. So, but again, that's not going to be the case for everyone. Maybe if you're working at home more, you've got a bit more time, then it's just having a repertoire of like 10-15 minute meals that you can make for lunch. Of which there are so many more than you think, or just like great salad dressings you've got up your sleeve to make something a bit boring, a bit interesting. And then dinner, I really enjoy cooking dinner. And there was definitely a time where I felt it was just like one more thing on the to-do list, like end the work day, get home, get the kids into bed, answer more emails, like frantically run around. But now I try and have it as my downtime. And that has just been a bit of a mental switch of like using the time to call someone, to listen to a podcast, to watch something, and have it just be a bit of actual me time. And it'll be time that my husband and I then catch up, which I really enjoy. So I don't think there's like one thing you have to eat. Obviously try and bring lots of veggies and fiber and beans and whole grains into those meals. But I think it's more asking yourself, like, what can I feasibly do? I'm really busy, but this is where I can make time, or this is how I can make it easier for myself. Because if you don't do that, I think the reality is that when you are busy, it all just slips and you're like, oh, I'll pick it up next week. And then you're busy next week too.
What are the absolute don't go there zone scenarios?
Look, and as I said earlier, there's not one bad food. There's a bad diet, and the two aren't the same thing. But ultimately, you need to cut down on the ultra-processed food, and you need to start eating more fresh, simple, whole food, plant-based ingredients. It's actually really quite straightforward in that way. It's like eat how your grandparents used to eat, but a little bit less meat, because we know that's so important as well from the environmental perspective. But it is just like eat real food. That would be honestly my biggest way of thinking about it. So it's not saying that there's one thing that will kill you, like there's not, but it's the balance switch that we've seen over the last kind of 50 to 70 years. That's the problem, and that's what isn't making us feel well.
I know you've only got about 30 seconds for lunch, so I'm going to let you go and say thank you very much and go and enjoy the rest of your day with those gorgeous kiddos, whether it be in the office or out of the office.
I know, honestly, it'll be absolute mayhem in the office. But yeah, they just love coming in.
Which is a good sign for the future.